Hello, welcome back to the Clap Podcast, where we scratch your itch for film and TV. This week, I am so lucky to be here with a great friend of mine, Blake Fonti, who is a big Alien fan, and we are going to be talking about all things Alien this week. Blake, how are you, mate?
I'm great, mate. Thanks for having me on the pod. It's
Of
been
course.
a pleasure to be here.
Mate, we've been friends since uni. We had some similar interests in a very niche field. I feel like we have to talk about that. This is where you and I became friends.
Yes, yeah.
We are big physical media guys.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've just outed ourselves as nerds.
'Cause
we've
we're not
lost
doing
half
a
the
film
audience.
podcast, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But we were big fans of that, and we were obviously huge mates. We have so many. We love going to movies and doing loads of stuff together. But that was the real big one. We had our rendezvous.
Yes,
We're exposing our nerdiness a lot right now, but it's fine. It's fine. But we love doing that stuff, and we really became close from that, and it's so great to see that.
It was
So
great.
how are you? What you been working on? You're a busy man as well. You doing lots of stuff.
I'm just at uni as well, same course as Will, obviously, and I'm currently working on a documentary.
Go on, please tell.
It's I've already made a 16mm film last semester, which I know you're doing currently.
I am.
But yeah, the documentary that I'm working on now is about fine dining, essentially.
Cool.
Yeah,
I love that. That's a great concept.
Yeah. It was originally going to look more into the mental health side of it, but now we're thinking it's probably better to look at how a lot of these chefs persevere through the difficulties of the industry and how it is very stressful, but it's also very gratifying and satisfying. So we're looking into that right now. We're just figuring out a few things with access and who we can talk to, and so I'm pretty excited for it. It's looking like it'll be a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Very nice. No, so what is your role in that one again? Are you?
Well, things are changing a bit at the moment because we've just had a slight crew adjustment.
Okay.
But I was the editor. I'm now co-editor.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So I'll be working on that with my good mate Kieran. Who
That's
you
good.
know.
Oh yeah, Kieran, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So you'll be doing the color grading and all that stuff as well.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we'll just sort of see where it takes us. Then I might help with some other things along the way. Like I think I'll be a safety officer and just a few little bits and pieces on set because I won't have much to do on set as an editor.
Of course, no. Get the credit up. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, Blake, the safety officer, the editor. You were DOP last time, weren't you? Or
no, I was editor last time.
Editor last time, but yeah, I've seen some photos of you behind the camera, so you know what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I love the little behind the scenes documentary. Yeah,
love it. I love it. So yeah, the documentary is awesome. Obviously, I did it last semester. It's a crazy ride. Right? It's a lot of fun though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the more intense part because it's very introductory right now.
Yeah. People don't know this, but you helped a lot with mine. You were there during the early stages, and you sent me some footage of your experience going to IMAX. And you helped out a lot with that.
Yeah,
which was great reference. Some of the stuff we got with Luca, it really helps.
Always willing to help, man.
Appreciate it. No, of course, thank you. So yeah, as I say, great friend of mine from uni. You've we got close after our crazy love for physical media. Which I mean, this guy has a collection that is sublime, to say the least.
I'm running out of space.
Yeah, but it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is obviously the week of Alien.
Yes, the week
big
of Alien.
One. What are your opinions of the franchise? Go into it. What are your feelings, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I got into the Alien franchise back when I was in primary school. So it's one of those, every now and then you have one of those weirdly nostalgic franchises where you shouldn't have seen them when you were a kid, but you did. Like I've got a friend who watched the Saw movies when he was younger. You might be listening to this. Hello, if you're there. You know who you are. But so I saw the Alien movies when I was younger. I don't know how I came across them. They were probably just very popular and one of the ones people talked about as I got into film. But I bought the DVD box set of Prometheus to Alien Resurrection.
Sure.
Watched all of them and just fell in love with it. And I think as well what really helped was that people talk about them all the time online. You know, they're iconic staples of cinema and there's such a great fan base and community around it as well. So that probably helped develop my interest a little bit. And being a 12-year-old as well, seeing a movie like that is mind-blowing. I'd watched Marvel and Disney and Cat in the Hat,
right.
Up until that point, it was a good adjustment period, and so that was sort of what helped usher in my real love for film.
Sure. Yeah, that's amazing.
And it was just sort of at that time, and continued to enjoy them since then. And although I was never quite old enough to see Alien Covenant when it came out, I was still a bit too young. I did see it eventually, but I am a big fan of the franchise. I think I'm a fan of the franchise as a whole more than I am the individual movies.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like there are films like Resurrection I haven't watched since I was 12.
Sure.
For a good reason. I didn't like it
Yeah,
very
right,
much.
yeah.
But then like Prometheus and Covenant I've
Mm.
only seen once. The first three though, many times I've watched those.
So were you an alien or aliens?
Or I was an Alien.
Yeah.
But I rewatched it before Romulus, and I didn't rewatch Aliens.
Okay.
I think Aliens has a chance of beating Alien now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I honestly, it wasn't quite like a 10 out of 10 for me anymore, but it's still a masterpiece. It's incredible.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm an alien man.
You're an
myself.
alien? Yeah.
I like aliens, but there's something about that haunted house in space
Oh, yeah.
vibe that's just a lot more my... Like, what everyone has that opinion of the franchise, obviously, from the first
Yes,
movie.
yeah.
And I really appreciate how great James Cameron did with the sequel, but there's just... It doesn't quite capture me as much as the first one. I love it. It's got so many awesome elements, but it just wasn't quite for me.
Yep, gotcha, yeah.
But at least in terms of compared to the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love horror as well, so I think Alien, for me, just aesthetically, I prefer.
Yeah. So before we start talking about Romulus, how do you feel about the prequel stuff, the Prometheus, Covenant? Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm always curious when I talk about Alien with people. Where do you stand on those ones?
Yeah, well, Prometheus, like I said, I was a bit young when I watched it. I haven't seen it in a little while. I remember... I knew going into it not to expect xenomorphs, but I think part of me was still disappointed that we didn't get that, because
Sure.
I loved the creature horror side of it. So I didn't really appreciate it for what it was, and it's definitely due for a rewatch.
Yeah.
Covenant, though, gave us that,
Yeah.
and I didn't love its approach. It
Yeah.
felt like it tried to kind of cross the artsy and the sci-fi horror together, and it just didn't really mesh very well.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was never too huge on them. I didn't dislike them. I still enjoyed both of the films,
Yeah.
but they might have just been. I might not have been ready for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to watch them again. The
Yeah.
idea of the films is very very intriguing, especially how Ridley Scott decided to just completely abandon all expectations
Yeah.
for Prometheus, and it's a
Yeah.
very bold move to do that with a franchise. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I respect him, and I think I'll definitely have to refresh my thoughts on them soon.
Totally. I'm defenders of them. I
Yeah.
personally really enjoy them. It sounds crazy, but I came to them before Alien. I know
Really?
I'm that guy. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I always just saw a new Alien film in Prometheus, and I thought they were interesting, like just from them alone, not even knowing they were this franchise thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe we're showing our young age here, but that's genuinely what I thought. And then I went back and realized, like, I really enjoyed them. Which maybe Alien fans will think I'm crazy for saying that, but I actually, they work for me. Then I went back and watched Alien, and I got it. I got it all.
Yep.
And I was really lucky. The first time I watched it was the 4K remaster.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it back with the heavy grain and the slightly
Ooh.
dated the look. I saw it with the 4K remaster.
That's awesome.
One of the first 4K I bought
Really?
was the Alien remaster.
That's out of print now. It's pretty hard to
Really?
find. Yeah.
There you go.
I can't get my hands on it.
I can't get my hands on Prometheus or Covenant.
Oh, really?
Cannot get my hands on it.
Yeah, I guess some of those Fox movies are a bit hard to find now.
They're hard.
With Disney pulling out of the market. So yeah.
Yeah, so that was where I watched Alien, and then I really want to get my hands on the Aliens remaster.
Yes,
I
yeah.
really want to get that one.
I've heard interesting things about that one.
I
But,
know. It's going to be better than what you're going to get anywhere else, though, isn't it? Don't
hopefully.
you think?
Yeah, it probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's just worth a bit of research, really.
Got to
yeah.
do it. Got to do it.
Yeah.
But so I watched that after, and I really liked Alien, obviously, but that's probably why I have a slight affinity towards those other ones, because that was for me my introduction.
Gotcha.
Which
yeah.
I don't know. I think not many people have had that experience, but that genuinely was mine.
Yeah.
And I love them. And
Yeah,
I
that's
just
good.
there's something about Alien that I think what works about it, and I mean this for the whole franchise, is it on the surface level you think it's, you know, an alien attacks some people in space.
Yep.
But there's so much underlying lore and mythology and interesting symbolism.
Yes,
Because obviously
yeah.
the art designer, which, you know, has been well documented, his involvement and, you know, all the things that the first Alien film went through in terms of production.
Yeah.
But it has so much to it. I mean, I think everyone agrees one of the best things about that first Alien film is the production design.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You don't get told the lore, but there's so much to it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is what works for me with the Alien franchise. And that was probably why Covenant and Prometheus had a profound effect on me, because there was this interesting thing with the engineers and David, being an AI.
Yes.
And his opinions towards the xenomorphs, that stem from the original as the perfect organisms. And all that. And I found that all so fascinating, more than just big scary monster kills a bunch of, people in space.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what some people see, and don't get me wrong, there is that, but there's so much more to that I think fans of the franchise love about it. And I know that all that stuff goes without saying, but I think it's a great tee-up for talking about Romulus, because I think it carries that quite well.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's talk about Romulus. Directed by Fede Álvarez, set between the events of the first Alien film and Aliens. So, Fede Álvarez.
Yes.
What do you think? I'm quite a big fan of his work. Don't Breathe and films like that. They're really interesting horror films. What do you think of his work?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I actually haven't seen many of his films. I've only seen Romulus and Evil Dead.
Evil Dead, the 2013 remake, right?
Yeah.
I really want to see it because I loved Evil Dead Rise, so I need to go back and watch it.
Yeah, Evil Dead Rise is really good, but when I heard that he was directing Romulus, I got really excited because I love the Evil Dead remake. I think it's potentially the best one.
Yeah.
I would need to rewatch them again because it's been a little while, but I remember thinking at the time that all of them were kind of equal, and that Evil Dead was a nice, like, updated cinematic version of the original. And Fede Álvarez clearly understands how to maintain the integrity of a franchise, put his own spin on it, and keep it interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
so that's why.
So true.
Yeah, and he understands that, like, especially with Evil Dead, he knew what that franchise needed. That it's not necessarily meant to be scary, but it is kind of, you should be freaked out by kind of like the gore and just the visceralness of it.
Sure.
And so I thought, okay, he clearly knows what to do. He knows he understands these franchises when he's making a film in them. And so Romulus, I was like, okay, cool. He's directing this. This will be great. Great decision. I think he'll do his research. He's probably a huge fan.
Yeah.
If he can do what he did for Evil Dead, but conform it to the Alien franchise, it should be a great film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So going in, would you say you're a little apprehensive, or was your excitement through the roof? Because I've said on the pod that it was my most anticipated film of the year. So this is the big one for me. How were you going into it?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of weird with my anticipated movies in that I never usually have a most anticipated. It keeps changing as the year goes on. But Romulus was always one that was really high up there because, again, Fede Álvarez directing it, new Alien film. And when I heard that Ridley Scott, who's apparently quite notoriously critical of filmmakers when they adapt his work either in a sequel or some other form.
Saw that with Denis for Blade Runner, and
Exactly. So when I saw that he was not only endorsing what Fede was doing, but also producing the film, I was like, whoa, that's big. That's
a big deal.
And he didn't even like Top Gun Maverick, which his brother directed the original Top Gun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's clearly very particular with things. And so if he's on board with it, I'm like, okay, the master has spoken.
Yes, absolutely.
We should listen.
Yeah, 100%. So, it stars Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, Isabella Moss said, some great up-and-comers.
Yes.
That's, I think, something that stands out, and especially compared to Prometheus and Covenant, when you had big names like Michael Fassbender and other people like that. You had with this one quite a fresh new cast.
Yeah.
People that are just starting to get kind of recognized and put into the limelight.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Kaylee Spaney obviously making a lot of headlines with Priscilla.
Yeah.
Terrific performance.
She's had a big couple of years recently.
Exactly, and Isabella Moss said, I think was even in one of the Transformers movies back when she was quite young.
Yeah, I remember seeing her in middle school, the worst years of my life, like back in 2016, I think.
Yeah.
She was also in Madam Web, which gratefully Romulus has come along to make everyone forget about that. But yeah.
Absolutely. So we've got a young cast. We've got a director who has been in this realm before, but is still kind of becoming well known and a kind of a big director.
Yeah.
Let's start. What do you
Alrighty.
think? Did it live up?
Yes, when I first saw it, because I've seen it twice now, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It maintained the spirit of the Alien films, or at least the first Alien film, so well, and I thought it was freaky. It had me on edge the whole way through. Found some really creative ways to be intense in a more elevated kind of way. Like it wasn't trying to be the very grounded, visceral film that the first Alien was. It took a little bit of inspiration from Aliens and made things a little more, I guess you could say action-packed, but just a little more exciting and a little bigger.
Yeah.
But it kept it intense. And I felt like, everything that happened had me invested. the character work was pretty strong as well. I thought that at least on first viewing especially, it really got me engaged in their mission going against the company to do something that they want for themselves, and the journey that they went on just made that so much more interesting for me.
I agree. I thought the character work was fantastic. I really cared for these characters.
Yeah.
I thought they were interesting. And obviously, you go into an Alien film, some people are going to die.
Yes.
And that's the way it is. But I thought they did really well at not rushing into the alien stuff straight away. They actually took the time to build out this world, build out the motivations of the characters.
Yes, yeah.
And ultimately, I completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
It was engaging, it was thrilling, it was scary, and it kept you on the edge of your seat. As much as you know what is going to happen going into a film like this, Fede Álvarez just has a style, and he just captures you with these characters in this situation. And, I found that especially when we jumped straight into the facehugger scene.
Yes.
With the red plastered that is now kind of the iconic poster.
Mm-hmm.
Red plastered across the screen, and you had this intense scene with these characters that you spent probably 20-30 minutes getting to know and like.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, please escape. Sometimes in these thrillers it doesn't quite work. You don't quite have that attachment.
Yeah.
But this film, I thought it really did.
I think so, yes.
And I think it came down to the performances were thrilling and fantastic, but ultimately I thought a standout was David Johnson as Andy. And I just thought their relationship between him and Kaylee Spenny's character really worked and added this emotional depth to these characters. And I have to admit, that was the bit for me that stood out. Now, before we keep going, I will say this is going to be a spoiler discussion from here on out. So, raising the spoiler alarm. If you haven't seen it, go see it and come back. But ultimately, if you are about to leave, we recommend the film. Please go out and see it. Here we go. Spoiler discussion.
Let's do it.
So, I thought Andy was a really interesting element.
Loved it. Yeah,
Loved
him.
Yep. So, we kind of had him start off being this what do they call him? Not, I want to say symbiote, but it's not symbiote. Not an AI, but what's the other word? A synthetic.
Synthetic, that's the one.
That's the one. I was like, it's not a symbiote, that's Venom.
There's like a million different words you could use for
I know, right? So, a synthetic. And it's the synthetic of Kaylee Spenny's character. And the only reason she's sort of invited on the ship with these characters is because of Andy.
Yes.
That's who they ultimately need to unlock the ship to get inside. But over the course of the film, he gets implanted with a computer chip thingy.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name. And he turns into sort of another character. And David Johnson portrays that incredibly well.
Yes.
Let's go into sort of what happens in the film. What stood out for you? What did you think of that change with Andy?
I thought that, well, number one, the performance was captured really well.
Yes.
Yeah, the second they put that, I think it was a module.
That's the word.
Module, yeah. When they put the module in, I thought that, after the rebooting happened, you could really feel the changes in the little subtle changes, the difference in nuance in the performance, and you could tell you weren't dealing with the same person, but there was some of him still trying to squeak through.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes.
And I thought that it was just impressive to see the switch like that. And it also made way for the film's commentary on AI.
Yes.
As it went on, what they did with Andy, and the idea that AI is not human at the end of the day.
True.
Yeah, that was one of the things I really liked about it, was its commentary on... It wasn't super extensive.
No.
But the fact that it touched on it just made it that bit more interesting for me. The commentary on AI and some of the commentary on capitalism.
Yes.
And the way they interwove the two as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with Andy. He's got motives that are very clear in his mind at one point in time. Well, they're directives, I guess, not motives, but then they change on a whim. And the idea that, for me, Andy, this character that we immediately become so sympathetic to, it's interesting because they captured how Kaylee Spenny feels about this character really well for the audience. Like, we immediately care for this guy, and then just like that, we can't trust him anymore.
Yeah.
And he's, favouring decisions for the company.
Yes.
He's clearly not loyal to humanity because... there's no reason for it to be. It's a robot. Yeah. It's programming. It's
and
not
obviously
human.
there's a lot to say about that in the world we live in. And
Yes.
those elements are exactly what I said before. That's what Alien is about. There's this larger than life xenomorphic creature that is incredibly scary. But you've also got this sort of commentary on the world
Yes.
and our relationship with technology and nature.
Yes.
And how that interplays with each other. And I think that is ultimately what Fede Álvarez captured well. I don't think it had it as strong as, say, Alien and Aliens. I don't
No.
think it was
Yeah.
as obvious and kind of what you take away from it. I think you take away from this film a lot more the sequences and the great moments
Absolutely.
with these characters and obviously the xenomorphs. But I did like how it was there because
Yes.
a lot of people could go in the direction of let's just make another Alien and we don't need that stuff. Everyone just talks about the chest burster and all that, and
No.
let's just do that
Exactly.
and everyone will love it. No, he took the time, as I think he is a scriptwriter on it too,
I believe so, yes.
to really develop some of the themes that have played out in not only Prometheus and Covenant, but an Alien and Aliens, but in
Yes.
the other sequels as well. It really feels like an Alien film that's listened to all that came before and went, we can do
Absolutely.
this again, but give you slightly more updated and give you engaging characters that you care about.
Yep.
And I think that's what solidifies itself with Romulus.
For sure, and whether it was thematically or on a more stylistic level, I felt that I really loved how it found a way to appeal to every fan of every Alien film.
Sure, it did.
Like immediately, even from the start, because I really like Alien 3. I've always respected that
Sure.
film. And one of the things I always loved about it was the 20th Century Fox logo.
Yes.
At the start, it's got that weird kind of dun dun dun.
Yeah.
It's that really creepy alternate intro, and Romulus had that, and I'm like, oh,
Yep.
I'm locked in.
You're locked in.
Yep, and then
I agree.
And then with some characters that show up, and even just the general approach of the film, very alien, very aliens. Then you get your Prometheus references with the black goo, and
Yep.
some of the they develop a few things that were touched on in those films. And then I was like, oh wow, we got nothing for Resurrection. How crazy is that? And then they fucking had it later on.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I you could definitely feel it came from a place of love, and
did.
they really cared for the source material.
Yep.
So I'm glad that they found a way to do that and not have it feel derivative.
I agree. And I found a lot of it came down to the success of the film came down to the creativity with it. You've
Yes.
had scenes that you think, oh, that's obviously should be in an Alien film. You had the goo, the acid goo.
Yes.
Acid blood bit at the
Yeah,
end. And, Kaylee Spaney trying to navigate her way around this with the zero G. Really good. Really
Yeah.
engaging. You watch this, you go, that's so cool. Like, obviously that is something that would be a threat to these characters.
Yeah.
And, from the production design to the xenomorphs, you could tell they had a real focus on the blend of practical effects with digital effects,
Absolutely.
because,
Yeah.
I think there is a common thing now that, a part of the selling point is everything's practical, but obviously in these films, there's never no CGI, it's just
Yes.
invisible CGI.
There's a place for both. Even
Exactly.
Back to the original Alien film, they were using their equivalent of CGI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in this case, they did so well at blending that practical element with the digital enhancements to create something that was incredibly realistic,
Yeah.
brutal, intense.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some of the key moments in the film.
Let's do it.
So we have the end.
Yes.
Let's go into that. What did you think? Because it's kind of like some of the other Alien films where you have a 4-act structure,
Yes.
in a way. What do you think of the end?
Yeah, well, when it got to that point, as it was leading up to it, I was thinking, okay, they clearly want us to feel like this is the ending, but it can't be.
Yes.
There's something else that has to happen. And then, of course, we get the birth scene, which was kind of freaky.
Yeah, yeah.
But I am a horror movie fan, so the whole idea of a 4th act, I'm always up for.
Sure.
I always love it as a nice little bonus. That moment where you think you're safe, but you're not. And so when this alien creature was born, I'm thinking, whoa, like this is like my first thought was, wow, we're getting something kind of new for this franchise.
Yeah.
I love that they've gone for this. This feels like a big moment, like a real big moment of progression. A lot of franchise films tend to feel like they need to play it safe and
Yes.
stick to what we've had, or just alternate on what's come before. But I thought, wow, this is nice. We're getting almost some new lore. And
Yeah.
then they reveal the creature. Well, in the lead up to the creature, I love how they focus on their reactions to it. They don't show it. They're clearly building it up. I'm like, what the hell are they going to reveal here?
Yeah.
Then that thing shows up, and I don't know about your screening, but I went to the advanced screening,
Oh,
like day
nice,
one, yeah.
nice.
And the whole theater was silent throughout the whole movie. That moment, the gasps.
Yeah,
that
right.
came was like,
Yeah. And that's what the moment should have been. That's what it was going for, and it works.
yeah, it works
For me,
so well.
it does.
It was easily for me the freakiest part of the film because I
Yes.
felt like. Because it was also so new for the franchise, I didn't know what to expect from this creature.
Yeah.
I was like, is it going to kind of be like the one in Resurrection where it's a little more... It has some kind of weird relationship with Ripley and it's not attacking her? Or is it because is this thing going to be like a baby where it's going to go up to Isabella Merced and want to, like, be comforted by her?
Yeah.
What's going to happen, or is it just going to kill people?
Yeah.
And just that uncertainty, not knowing what to expect from this thing. I mean, horror movies have always been great on, making you fear the unknown.
Yes.
So having something like that for me was not only just a freaky sight, because like the design of the creature was horrifying.
Horrifying. Yeah.
Really cool.
Incredibly well done by the team. behind
Super
that,
well
yeah.
done. And I don't know if they had anyone performing that practically or not, but like
Yeah,
was,
they did. They had an actor
they did?
doing that. Yeah.
incredible work.
Yeah.
And it was just like such a, I don't know, I don't even know how to put it into words. Like it was this really kind of slow but also really like harsh moment where like this crazy thing is happening right in front of you, but it's like it's just moving itself around and you're waiting for something to happen.
You are.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, no, I thought that was a really nice cherry on top.
I agree. So I'll ask you then, sort of concluding statements. So, what'd you love, and did anything not work for you? Go into it. How final thoughts? What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, when I first watched it, I thought that all the action, the horror, all worked, and I really loved how high stakes everything felt.
Yeah.
Like even some of the more extreme things that happened, like or the more over the top things, I should say, like the elevator falling, and blocking out the vacuum of space. Some of the things like that happened that were a bit over the top. I thought the movie did a great job at establishing the stakes.
Yeah.
Not even the stakes, just establishing the idea that could happen. And so when it happened, it didn't feel so out of left field or like it was really, going too far. And so I really liked that. And again, it all felt really high stakes. So everything was, kept me on edge. I think one of my issues with it, I know one issue we're probably going to talk about later, but one of the issues I have with it that I'm not hearing too many people talk about is the use of music.
Okay.
I thought that the music was really well composed, but I find nowadays with a lot of movies, they tend to overuse music a little bit.
Sure.
I feel like some of the most suspenseful scenes ever come from a lack of music.
Sure. Yeah.
And there were a few moments in this film where they did a really good job with not including music or
agreed.
keeping it in a minimum. There were a few though where I felt like they could have drained it a bit or kept it a little more minimalistic, and it might have, just made it a little more uneasy.
Yeah.
For me
absolutely.
personally, and I think the original Alien film is a bit like that too.
Yeah.
But I can understand that it was very new for its time, and back then as well, you probably didn't have music like that heightening the horror that was being seen on screen.
Totally.
So that I get. Now I think it took away from some of the tension every now and then.
Fair.
But the music was really good.
I agree.
And on rewatch, it was more of an issue I had on rewatch, but I found that the characters I was engaged emotionally.
Yep.
But only because of what we're told.
Okay.
I think that they didn't really have a lot personality-wise.
Okay.
In the original Alien film, that film was kind of lacking a little bit of emotional stakes, lacking some of the more dialogue-based establishment for who they are, maybe what their motivations are, why they might want to get back to Earth or anything like that. This film had that, but it didn't really have them leading through action. We didn't really get to see too much of what they do as people or what they're like. And I feel like the dynamic between the crew could have been a little bit more natural. Not that it was fake. I feel like compared to what's come before, we can see that it could be better.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's just like little things like that here and there that probably make it a little less impactful on rewatch. I feel like the charisma from the characters in the other Alien films is a lot more prevalent and sticks throughout on rewatch and makes me care about them more. Whereas if we're only going off of what we're told, it kind of wears off.
Okay.
At least on rewatch. But first viewing, incredible film, and I still really liked it on rewatch. It's super well made. Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you. I thought it was a phenomenal film. production design, incredibly great. And what I loved about it is it really does feel like it is between Alien and Aliens.
Yes.
It's, the buns are tactile, the practical elements really come through, and it feels like something that does come from Alien and is inspired by Aliens.
Yes.
And that comes through. Did I think it sometimes went a bit too far with some of the fan servicey moments? I didn't think they were necessary.
Yeah.
They didn't ruin it for me. I know some people are really vocal
Yeah.
about, the return of Rook and obviously the get away from her, you bitch.
Yeah, it's a big
and all
talking
that.
point these
It's a
days.
big talking
Yeah.
point. Look, I didn't love those moments either. I thought the thing with Rook, I get why he's in the film,
Yeah.
but I didn't think it quite worked, or it was overused a touch.
I see
A
that.
little bit. I didn't think it ruined it. That's the thing that I
No,
can't say.
didn't
These are
ruin it.
not elements that ruin the film. I kind of was too aware of the fact that it was a film at those points. Because I'm like,
Yes.
oh, they brought back, oh, okay. And, and then I also, and obviously the actors passed away tragically. But, so they had to do kind of a CGI thing that I thought could be a touch distracting in
Yeah.
parts. And I also thought the callback to Get Away From Her, You Bitch was like, look, fun, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it just felt a little forced, in my opinion.
It did, yeah.
But ultimately, terrific film, great production design, interesting story.
Very
with-
well directed. Yeah.
Very well directed.
Yeah.
I mean, Fede Álvarez killed it. It is genuinely thrilling,
Yes.
terrifying, and entertaining simultaneously, which is what you go into an Alien film wanting.
Absolutely, yeah. It definitely satisfied me as a fan, and I know you're a big fan. So
I was a big fan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it. So we should say it's done pretty well at the box office. It's made over 124 million worldwide so far,
Yeah.
and it passed 50 million at the US box office within 1 week of release.
That's
So
yeah,
it's doing well, which is
very
great.
impressive.
Great to see that a film like this is getting the recognition
Yeah.
that we both think it deserves.
And I was worried about that because the Aliens
Yeah.
franchise has, had a bit of an interesting last sort of 10 years,
I
really.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great to see that they're back on track with this one.
Yeah.
So I want to play a game with you, Blake.
Okay.
I want to do an Alien trivia.
Okay.
Similar to what I've done in the past, I'll ask you, I've got 4 questions for you.
Okay.
Answer them, and I'll tell you how many you got right, and I'll give you the answers at the
All
end.
right, let's
If
see.
you don't know an answer, just say pass. Audience, feel free to play along at home. Let's do the Alien trivia. So, number 1. What item was used to create the tendons of the xenomorph's jaw in the 1979 Alien films?
The tendon of the
I thought you may
xenomorph's
know
jaw.
as the guy who's watched the Alien behind the scenes and the 4K, and I thought you may know this, but
The problem is I haven't seen the behind the scenes.
you haven't seen the behind
Yeah.
the scenes.
Oh, I really should watch. Oh, I have actually.
It's pretty
Long time
interesting
ago.
answer. That's why I put it in. You may not know.
Oh yeah, I actually don't know the answer to that one.
Pass?
Yeah, pass. I'm gonna have to pass.
Okay.
Damn, not a good sign.
Fair enough. Obviously, the great James Cameron directed Aliens.
Yes.
What are his 4 most known films on IMDb?
Ooh, okay. Avatar would have to be one. I'm gonna say Terminator 2.
Yep.
Okay. Aliens
Yes.
and Titanic.
No.
No, not Titanic. Avatar 2.
Yes.
Oh,
Well done. Yep, that's the one. Right, this one's a little difficult, but I wonder if you get it. So number 3, Ellen Ripley is revived after her death in Alien Resurrection. How many years after her death is it?
It's 200 years.
Well done.
Thank you.
Correct.
I knew that one.
This is an interesting question.
Okay.
That I'm hoping this is right.
All right.
Who is the first character that dies in the Alien franchise that we see on screen?
It's Kane. Right? No, is it not?
No, think about it. Alien franchise, think about timelines.
Oh, chronologically.
Chronologically.
Oh, this is a Prometheus question.
It is a Prometheus question.
Shit.
Opening scene.
The opening scene. The opening scene was with those white creatures, wasn't it? Like the.
Yeah, what are they called?
That's a good question. Oh man, I don't remember.
The engineer.
The
The
engineer.
engineers. So I believe
Okay.
at the start of Prometheus, the engineer sips a poison that kills him in order to do something else. I haven't seen it for a while,
Okay.
but I believe that's the opening scene of Prometheus. But I thought I was going to catch you out with that it's the
Yeah.
first character that dies in the Alien franchise, not the first Alien, because obviously
Yeah.
they came before.
Right. I need to brush up on my lore a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I
history.
was so interested when it was a friend of mine who threw that question at me, and I thought that's a good one.
Yeah,
actually.
no, that is a good one actually. I like it.
In terms of the first question, what item was used to create the tendons of the xenomorph's jaw? It's shredded condoms.
Really?
Yep. In the 1979 Alien film, they used that to create the tendons of the xenomorph's jaw.
Whoa, okay.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was I literally just looked, I was like doing research and I was like, oh, I want to ask him that question, see if he knew that. Because I'll like be so random if you got that one.
Yeah.
But it'd be really fun.
God, visual effects and production designers have to get so creative. with how they come up with things.
Especially for films like this. It's
Oh, man.
insane.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Blake, for joining the podcast. I appreciate it.
man.
Now, it's a slightly quicker one than normal.
Yes,
But thank you for
yeah.
coming on, and we'll definitely have to get you on again.
Absolutely, man. When
Thanks
I
so
come
much.
on next time, I'll try to prepare my answers a little more and be a little more brushed up on the franchises that we're going into.
You did terrific. And we
Yes.
both recommend audience go out and see Alien Romulus. Terrific film, and we cannot wait to see what this franchise does in the
Highly
future.
recommend. Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Clap podcast, and we cannot wait to see you next time. Goodbye. Bye.